Siamecat. Before you ask, we have a strict no paper puns rule in this house. Paper puns are terrible. Dang it!
Paper Mario released on the N64 in 2001. The art style was the polar opposite of what every other N64 game looked like at the time. While most games had 3D character models and 2D background elements, Paper Mario had entirely 3D worlds and 2D characters. For this reason, Paper Mario, at least visually, has aged very well compared to a lot of other N64 games, which just look old. Although this was considered the better looking game back when Paper Mario was first announced, because this was new and 2D character sprites were not new. Of course, if you try to tell that to game designers today, they'll laugh at you. Also, this game has amazing water effects. Now that's good water. Paper Mario is an RPG, which means this is a Mario game with a big emphasis on story and turn-based battles. This isn't entirely unheard of for Mario because Super Mario RPG exists. The story opens with Mario and Luigi getting an invitation to a party at Peach's castle. This opening is so cool, you get to meet characters from all over the Mushroom Kingdom. As they describe all the places they're from, you start to wonder, am I going to visit all these places? Then Bowser's castle rises from the ground and lifts Peach's castle into the sky. You think Peach's homeowner's insurance will cover that? Bowser says he stole a wish-granting item called the Star Rod from Star Haven, and imprisoned the guardians of the Star Rod, the 7 star spirits, all across the Mushroom Kingdom. Oh, and by the way, Bowser is consistently the funniest character in the Mario RPGs. Most of the time, Bowser is an overconfident and incompetent tryhard. He's not often portrayed as a threat, and that's hilarious. Anyway, Mario tries to fight Bowser, so Bowser uses the Star Rod to make himself invincible. Guess who wins that fight?
And that was Paper Mario. It was on the short side, but I enjoyed it. Mario died though, so I don't know how there are 5 more of these games.
The Star Spirits revive Mario and tell him to go to Shooting Star Summit. So are the Star Spirits controlling Mario's dead corpse? Was Mario dead this entire time? You have your work cut out for you, game theory. Along the way, Mario finds a hammer, and a Goomba named Goombario joins Mario on his quest. We'll talk about party members soon, don't worry. Eventually, you'll reach Toad Town. Toad Town is the central hub of the Mushroom Kingdom. Every area in the game branches off from Toad Town. Here you'll find shops, side quests, and minigames galore. One thing you can do here that I'd like to mention now is cooking. Cooking basically lets you combine items to make new items. You're on your own when it comes to figuring out some of these recipes though. You pretty much just have to experiment. At Shooting Star Summit, the Star Spirits tell Mario that they can give him the ability to revoke the effects of the Star Rod. So the quest to rescue the 7 Star Spirits begins. Along the way, Mario will meet characters that join him as party members. Their designs and personalities are all unique, but they're only important to the story for the duration of the chapter you meet them in. This is something the sequel does better, but doesn't fix entirely. They all have unique abilities outside and inside of combat. Partners don't level up with Mario. Instead, you'll upgrade them by finding these blocks throughout the world. They don't even have HP. If they get hit, the amount of damage they take results in the amount of turns they have to sit out on. The partners are what most people remember when they think of Paper Mario, but there would need to be some adjustments made to them before they would have a chance of being the best feature in the series. The prologue portion of the game does have one big problem, though.
It's over an hour long.
You won't find any interesting gameplay until the start of Chapter 1. I'm sure this is just an RPG thing, and it got better with every following sequel, so it's not that big of a deal. The battle system is legendary. It starts off with simple strategy, like don't jump on spiked enemies, don't hammer flying enemies. But once you reach Chapter 2, the game actually gets really challenging. It's pretty much a cliche at this point to say Nintendo games are easy, so it's nice to see that Paper Mario teaches you how the battle system works through Chapter 1, and actually assumes you know how to play the game by Chapter 2. If you attack an enemy on the field, you will get the first strike, which lets you do a little extra damage at the start of the battle. It's stuff like this that makes Paper Mario feel more like a Mario game. In fact, first strikes have become a staple that no Mario RPG is complete without. Action commands are what really make Mario RPGs stand out from other RPGs. When you attack, you'll get a prompt to hold the control stick left, time button presses, etc. If you perform action commands correctly, you'll do more damage. This adds a layer of skill to the game most RPGs don't have. You can even guard against enemy attacks to take less damage. You get a new star power ability every time you rescue a star spirit. These abilities range from giving enemies status effects, healing Mario, or just powerful screen nukes. These abilities cost star power that slowly charges each turn. There are items that restore stats and damage enemies. Pretty standard stuff, but you can only hold 10 items at a time, and duplicates don't stack, which incentivizes actually using items often. You get star points for winning battles, and you level up for every 100 star points. Battles will give you less and less star points with every level up, which effectively eliminates grinding. Every time you level up, you can choose to upgrade your health, flower points, or badge points. There's no option to upgrade attack or defense when leveling up. Instead, your attack stat will increase by finding boots and hammer upgrades in the world. Flower points are used for partner abilities and specific badge-related moves, and badges are easily the best part of Paper Mario. You can get them by finding them, buying them, or finding star pieces and trading those for badges. In order to equip badges, you need badge points, and as I mentioned earlier, you can upgrade those by leveling up. Some badges give you new moves, some give beneficial status effects, etc. Badges add an insane amount of customization and replayability, and depending on the setup, can completely change the way you approach battles. Some essential badges I always have equipped are Power Bounce and Quick Change. Power Bounce lets you jump on an enemy over and over again until you mess up. This tears through the HP of bosses with low defense. Swapping which partner is with you in battle normally costs you a turn, but with Quick Change equipped, you can swap partners for free.
I never leave the house without it.
One of my favorite ways to play Paper Mario is the peril strategy. When Mario has 1 HP left, he is considered in peril. There is a badge called Mega Rush, which increases Mario's attack power by 4 when he's in peril. Last Stand, Damage Dodge, and Defend Plus all increase Mario's defense, so if you're good at guarding attacks, you can be a glass cannon that deals insane damage, but constantly remains at 1 HP. Bring plenty of life shrooms. Paper Mario has some really good music, but most of it just exists. The writing is very good, but a little generic compared to the sequels. There's a pipe at the entrance to Toad Town that leads to Mario and Luigi's house. Luigi is on house-watching duty. Is the Mushroom Kingdom really so dangerous that Luigi has to watch the house while Mario's gone? They need to set up some security cameras. After Chapter 3, you can find Luigi's diary in the basement. You probably already know how great this is. Luigi's diary provides insight into his character before Luigi's Mansion released. There's even one part where he talks about being afraid of ghosts, a cool byproduct of Luigi's Mansion being in development at the time. Chapter 1 sees you drive Fuzzies out of Koopa Village and free Bob-ombs from Koopa Bros. Fort. Chapter 1 is a basic introduction chapter. It's not designed to be very memorable compared to the chapters that follow, and it's also very easy. I completed the first dungeon in the game without taking damage once. Every chapter has a Peach intermission after the chapter ends, where you play as Peach. The goal every time is to find information on where the next Star Spear is being held, so Mario will know where to go next. The game could have easily worked without these intermissions, but the fact that they are here shows just how much detail and care went into this game. Every Peach intermission is unique in what you'll be doing. One is a stealth mission, one sees you baking a cake, and one is even a game show. I used to despise Chapter 2 when I first played this game. I think that was because I didn't realize the path in the center of the desert leads to Dry Dry Outpost. See, you're supposed to go to Dry Dry Outpost, but I thought it was a better idea to get lost in the desert for an hour. But now that I know what to do, I can appreciate the search for Dry Dry Ruins a lot more. Dry Dry Ruins is also a great dungeon. You also meet Colorado the Archaeologist in this chapter. He's one of the best characters in this game, and you'll see why a few chapters later. Chapter 3 is one of the best chapters in the game. Before you even start the chapter, you learn during the Peach intermission that you'll have to fight an invincible boss named Tubba Blubba. Well, the last time I tried to fight an invincible boss, it didn't end well. So, how in the world am I going to... Oh, there's a weak point. Surely we can find this secret weak point before we actually fight him, right? The key to it is in his castle. But we have other things to be afraid of right now, like Booze. The Toads are terrified of Booze, and in order to reach the presumed area where the Star Spear is being held, we have to enter the spooky forest where Boos live. But eventually you'll find a village full of Boos, and it turns out the Boos who scare the Toads are afraid of Tubba Blubba. It's because of this that makes Chapter 3 have the most unique narrative compared to all the other chapters. Once you find the key for a random windmill in Tubba Blubba's castle, an epic escape sequence ensues. The Boos try to slow down Tubba Blubba as much as they can while you go down to the windmill to find his weak point. The reason Tubba Blubba is invincible is because he removed his heart from his body and hid it at the bottom of a windmill. And sure enough, when he reunites with his heart, he's no longer invincible. What a great chapter. When you get back to Toad Town, you might notice something slightly off about the music. It's more fast-paced than it used to be. You'll soon realize that's because Toad Town is overrun with Shy Guys. The Shy Guys stole a bunch of items and are taking them to a secret place known as Shy Guy's Toy Box. This is just one example of the variety in this game. Chapter 3 takes place in a forest and a gulch, and Chapter 4 takes place in a toy box.
Finally.
Chapter 4 consists of exploring a little bit of the toy box, then going back to Toad Town to return some stolen items, then rinse and repeat. While returning to Toad Town so many times in one chapter is annoying filler, it didn't really bother me that much. There's also an optional boss in Chapter 4 called Anti-Guy. There's a good reason he's optional. He has 50 HP and does 10 damage. This early in the game, that does sound, impossible, but he's susceptible to status effects, so I won very easily using the badge Sleep Stomp. Chapter 5 is my favorite chapter in the game. The chapter starts with Mario and Colorado going to Lava Lava Island. Colorado hopes to find treasure, and we're just trying to find the Star Spirit. Once you reach the island, as soon as Colorado leaves your sights, this happens. It's here that we learn that Colorado is extremely incompetent, and probably wouldn't survive the dangers of the island without Mario's help. He's kind of the useless sidekick to Mario. He even tries to fight the boss, but fails miserably to the surprise of absolutely no one. Anyway, the first part of the chapter is one big reference to Yoshi's Island. There's a Yoshi village, Raphael the Raven makes an appearance, and the song that plays in the Yoshi village is the title theme from Yoshi's Island. The second part of the chapter takes place in a volcano. I just can't decide between this dungeon and Tubbo Bubba's castle. They're both really good. The funny thing is they both have escape sequences. What directly follows Chapter 5 is Chapter 6.
I've been counting wrong my whole life!
Which is my least favorite chapter in the game. Firstly, this chapter feels so disconnected from the rest of the game. Up to this point, every area has been connected by characters and other relations. Flower Fields comes out of nowhere. There's only one character outside of Flower Fields who even knows the place exists, and you get there by entering a magic door. The self-contained story the chapter has isn't all that bad, but I've always had a constant uneasy feeling whenever I play this chapter because it's so out of place. We already had a good Grassy Plains chapter too, so Flower Fields is also unnecessary, and it doesn't help that trying to make progress in this chapter is way too confusing. The center branches out into 6 linear paths with little to no signposting, so it's difficult to figure out where you need to go next. Luckily, Chapter 7 is another one of the best. You start the chapter in a town called Shiver City. You're supposed to meet someone who knows the location of the last Star Spirit, but they live in a nearby town called Starborn Valley, so you'll have to get there from Shiver City. But in order to go to Starborn Valley, you need permission from the mayor of Shiver City. So you go to his house, and then this happens. What follows is a murder mystery in a Mario game. And Mario is the main suspect! Now you have to prove your innocence in a town where everyone is on board with the idea that Mario is the murderer. In the end, though, it turns out the mayor wasn't actually dead. He just experienced a concussion via falling objectitis. When you get to Starborn Valley, you learn that the final Star Spirit is in the Crystal Palace. The Crystal Palace is a fantastic dungeon. Right away, you'll notice a mirror. Eventually, you'll reach a point where you can go behind the mirror, and things you do on one side of the mirror affect things on the other side of the mirror. There are 2 side quests I want to mention before the final chapter: Koopa and the Dojo. The Dojo is a collection of 5 optional bosses. The last one is one of the hardest bosses in the game, second only to the Anti-Guy unit in Chapter 8. Koopa makes you do dozens of chores. And what is your reward most of the time? 1 coin.
That's it, I've had it.
If I were to describe Paper Mario in 2 words, those words would be anticipation and payoff. You anticipate traveling to all these locations the people at the party are talking about. You anticipate Bowser being the final boss. You anticipate seeing Star Haven for yourself once you rescue all the Star Spirits. And most importantly, you anticipate Junior Troopa stalking you wherever you go. Junior Troopa is a recurring boss that you fight in the Prologue, Chapter 1, Chapter 3, Chapter 5, Chapter 7, and Chapter 8. When he said he'll be back, he meant it. Anyway, the final boss is great. Bowser makes himself invincible every few turns, so you have to use the Star Beam every time he does that. Other than that, the fight is pretty standard though. Once everything returns to normal, Paper Mario truly does end exactly where it began. Mario and Luigi get an invitation to a party at Peach's castle. Except this time, I know these people. and I've been to these places. Paper Mario is a funny and endearing game that gets better with every playthrough. It's even better than its sequel in some ways.
Don't tell anyone I said that, okay? The jig is up.